We are discussing the violence that broke out in Salaga yesterday after the announcement of Damongo as the capital for the newly created Savannah region. Now, for a bit of context, Malik is here with us. Before we hear Mr. Salifu Said, the Minister for Northern Region and caretaker minister for these two newly created regions, Malik, for a bit of context, the president started with the Northeast region.
Yeah.
He laid the CI for it. Or should I say he issued the CI?
Constitutional Instrument 116.
Good. So he signed it and he made the announcement of
Nalerigu as a capital.
Or as that capital. Now, when it got to Savannah region, the same happened and then the announcement of Damongo was made. But what informed the controversy around the selection of the capital, Damongo?
No, I think it's just the expectation by people believed to be supporters of the NPP in the Salaga South constituency who believe that Salaga should have been chosen as the capital of the Savannah region instead of Damongo. And essentially their political argument is that as far as they were concerned, they voted for the NPP in that constituency. That constituency is being held by the NPP, and therefore if the NPP government creates a new region, then it should be a political reward for them, and therefore Salaga should have been cited as a capital. They further argued that they do not understand why Damongo, whose MP is NDC, should be chosen for the regional capital. And there are, if you know this area and if you know the culture and traditions and infrastructure and even the size of these various towns, you can clearly understand why Damongo will be chosen as a capital. First of all, you have to remember that the Savannah region largely covers the Gonjaland area of the northern region. So you have Salaga, you have Gupe, you have Yape, you have Bole, you have Damongo. All of these areas are areas occupied by the Gonjas. So this is actually a region which is largely dominated by Gonjas. The traditional, the head of the Gonjaland, and I'm talking about the Yagbonwura. The Yagbonwura is the overlord of the Gonjas. I'm talking about Tuntumba Borisa Suleimana Japa. He is the overlord of the Gonjas. He lives in Damongo. And usually it is the Gombas have Yendi. The Yana is in Yendi. The overlord of the Dagbon is in Yendi. Even though Tamale is a far bigger town than Yendi, you have the overlord being in Yendi. If you take the Gonjas, the overlords, the residence for the overlord is located in Damongo. So that is the traditional home of the overlord of the Gonjas. So, and it's a big town. So when you have Damongo being chosen for the capital of the region, you can clearly understand because this is the seat of your traditional authority.
And the traditional authorities were very influential in the selection of these capitals, which is why, for instance, in the Bono East region, the chiefs of Nkranza are complaining that they have been sidelined.
So the Yagbonwura was at the Jubilee House yesterday. He received the Constitutional Instrument 115 from the president. Imagine that the Yagbonwura would come and receive this. He is the embodiment of the traditional people and the seat of the traditional authority of this area is in Damongo. Imagine that the capital is sent somewhere else. And for those who know this area, Damongo actually has the infrastructure to host the capital of the region. So it clearly is based on all of those factors that Damongo was chosen. Nonetheless, these youth whom we saw in the videos throwing stones at the building set the MPP head of the MPP party office for that constituency ablaze. They think that it should have been political reward for them. But that also points out something about the tendency for supporters of the various parties to sometimes attempt to hijack the party or the government and take it to ransom. And we have seen this repeatedly in various places.
Now, Malik, for me, the bigger question is about inclusive development and us being able to be confident that our city will develop whether or not it's a regional capital. Now, I shudder to think that in the past, I mean, the mere fact that the idea behind the creation of regions was to bring development to deprived areas. It fuels that notion that if there is nothing special here, like if this place is not a regional capital, then maybe government is not compelled to develop the place.
No, but if you listen to them, Daniel, yesterday, their argument is just about political reward. That
you know what?
They gave you a seat, so reward us with the regional capital.
No, but why would they want a regional capital? Let's listen to the youth themselves. Then we'll come back. Raymond is also here. We'll come back and we'll have this conversation. But because there's an argument that this is really about development reaching me. So that if development reaches me, it shouldn't matter if this is a regional capital or not. Because really, what's the difference does that make to the life of a young man there? Let's listen to them. We'll come back.
It was applause and spontaneous joy as President Akufo-Addo announced Nalerigu and Damongo as the latest regional capitals for the newly created Savannah and Northeast regions.
Damongo has been chosen. Secondly, Damongo has been chosen as the capital of the Savannah region.
But up north in the Savannah regional town of Salaga, rioting youth took to the streets to register their protests. They escalated their displeasure by setting the NPP party office on fire. Scores of angry youth were sighted destroying anything they could set their eyes on. Here is a resident.
The place is still on fire and the people are still throwing stones, all manner of things, just to make sure that they see the place burn down. They are still throwing stones. It's still on fire, but they are still there. People will not move.
MP for Salaga South, Brian Masalifu Adams, who described the action as embarrassing, says the police are helpless and wants the military to step in.
We've been calling the police. I know their standard procedure. So far, things are coming, but they've done the worst already. They've burned the party office. We understand. We only hope that they will stop what they are doing, and then they are threatening going to attack government buildings.
Deputy Chief of Staff Abu Jinapo says there's no justification for what happened and wants the security agencies to deal with the troublemakers.
The law enforcement agencies should bring perpetrators to book when they break the law, regardless of what motivated them to do so. So that's the first point. The second one is that we can only cite a regional capital in one town. We cannot have two regional capitals or three regional capitals. And so one town will certainly have to be selected over other considerations or other towns which were in the offing.
That was Deputy Chief of Staff Samuel Abu Jinapo there, ending a report, a news desk report really. This is still the Super Morning Show in Joy, 99.7 FM. Now, we've made the point really about how the things that may have informed the selection of Damongo. Thank you.
Regional capital for
my mind is on Nalerigu now because of the conversation we're about to have. Now, we know that Damongo is a seat for the Yabonra, who is the traditional leader for the Gunjas. Nalerigu is also the seat for the Nairi, who is the traditional leader for the Mamproshi. Now, it may have been argued that Wale, for instance, because of its position, Wale is on the Bolgatanga Road, it's quite developed. Because of its position, it could have been made the capital, but that was not the case. Malik, you have some insights?
Yeah, it was not, because if you look at the various towns in the northeast, you have Walwali, you have Gambaga, you have Nalerugu, Yagaba, Kubori, Tantala. All of these are large towns that fall within the northeast region. But of course, you would see that they chose Nalerugu, I would imagine, largely because the Nairi is a very influential traditional authority in the Mamprugu area because he's the head. The Nairi is the head of the Mamprugu traditional area. Yeah. And all of these areas that constitute the northeast fall within the Mamprugu areas. You have to remember that in the resolution of the Yendi crisis, it was three eminent chiefs. Who were they? Asante Heni, Yagbonwura, Nairi.
So these are very influential persons.
Absolutely.
In even the greater northern region, much less the now divided Savannah Northeast and northern region.
Absolutely. So it's a reason why the seat of the traditional authority would be chosen as the capital of the region. Because it is not for nothing that seat itself is a capital.
Okay.
Is that town is where the seat of the traditional authority is located.
Now, Raymond, at the heart of the protest that these young men are making is the fact that they have been swerved, if I can use that expression. They claim that they were promised the capital politically, and that capital was not given to them. Could it be that there's a communication gap in there? They do not understand the reasoning that, for instance, Malik sitting here can see.
I doubt that very much. One, because it's a lot of fancy reward for people to think that because of how hard we have worked hard for the things that's supposed to be the case, or how loyal we are to the political party, and how we have been esteemed in doing good work for the political party, the best reward we can get is making our place the capital. Regardless of all the sound logic that may came and that may be advanced against this particular claim. One, there's an emotional reward to this. It feels good to make your town in a competing space of this sort the regional capital. Let's not dismiss that. Two, for bragging rights, of course, it will be the case. Because if you recall, it's not only in the northeast and the other, virtually every place that we have created the region, there's always that competition. That's who.
In fact, every area we have created
districts. And that's been a very
remember
thorny issue. It's because you need to associate the growth of your area. And for some reason, again, the people are not totally oblivious of the fact that this may bring some development along the line to their place. Because the regional passport office will be there. There will be a regional hospital, whether we like it or not. There's going to be so many of the state-level institutions be replicated at that place. And that, to them, will bring some jobs closer to the people too. And the other point that's also important in this case is that, you see, we are mostly ethnic people. We are not yet a nation state where people put their individual ethnic affiliations aside and presume that the collective state is more important than my ethnic affiliation. We are not there yet. There are states that are at the level of nation states where it's very difficult for them to put the interest of their ethnic group or their personal and filial groupings ahead of that of the state. So whichever decision a grouping, especially those who are not properly tutored and led in the understanding of how state is supposed to be run, their only interest is to make sure that they get for their own. That alone is enough to incite them. Two, there are people who might have themselves promised or been behind these young men, telling them that it is only you who can push for it. That if you are not seen to be very active, because we know in this country, the actions, the rather illegal actions of young people have influenced policy before. We have removed DCs. We have changed regional ministers.
And that National Security Coordinator never took his post.
Very good. We have taken major decisions because it is not wrong to react to what the people are saying, but because some political pressure from a grouping, that might even be the minority, has spoken. So all of this can make a grouping do that. The bigger picture is, one, if, and I'm asking myself that question, if the state had explained, like the president explained when he was appointing ministers, he was explaining that we did go through, because remember, right from the beginning, the minister said, we are considering all the issues and looking at what the best way will be for selecting. But it looks to me like, right from the beginning, it was cocksure where these capitals are going to be. If what you detailed was pretty known to everybody. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. It would have been rather the injustice if it happened to me the other way. So why weren't these people aware of this process? And if they are aware, why were they emboldened to think that merely choosing violence will change it?
Guys, you see, I think it comes back really to the real reason for the people's agitation in the first place. And it's important that we drill down to it because, yes, it's not for nothing that someone can promise you that I will make this place a regional capital, and I will take that promise as something that would motivate me to vote in a certain direction.
And I'm saying this because if you follow all the political campaigns for the Savannah region, Damongo has always been cited as a potential capital.
But Malik,
secondly, in response to Raymond's eloquent arguments about
Communication.
yes, about
Mode of communication.
not even that, about the fact that we are ethnically based in our thinking.
Okay.
That is true. Except that in this case, the people of Salaga and the people of Damongo are both Gunjes.
And if
So
they were
it is
if they were
not-
that ethnically biased, they would have actually respected the fact that the Yabonres seat is in.
So it is actually not a question of ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Salaga has for many, many decades been under Tamale being the regional capital.
Mm-hmm.
The larger northern region, Salaga was part of the larger northern region.
Mm-hmm.
Tamale was the capital. There was no protest from these same people,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually lived with it. So you wake up one day and you now constitute a new region, and all of a sudden you want your town to be the capital. And if your town doesn't become the capital, then you go and burn down property, and then you throw stones.
Why would they demand that their town it becomes
Will
capital?
these actions reverse the decision? It will not. I think that we should talk about a larger propensity for resorting to violence when we disagree. And that is something I think everyone, politicians, religious leaders, traditional leaders, everybody must deal with this tendency for people to resort to violence when we disagree. Because burning down a party office won't change the decision which has been taken.
Yeah.
Throwing stones at the building has done actually virtually nothing in creating the grievance that you have. So when you go and throw a stone at a building and you set the building on fire, when you should know or ought to have known that that will reverse the decision which has angered you, for which reason you are engaging in this violent conduct, then it tells something about us which we must deal with.
But you see, guys, as much as we condemn the violence and we do not in any way think that you have to necessarily break down a building or burn a place in order for you to make your point, we still have to look at the issue as it is. How many growth poles are in Ghana? How many cities can we point to as growth poles in Ghana? If you go to Scotland, for instance, Edinburgh is the capital. And then Aberdeen is the oil capital of Europe. So Aberdeen has now become a training. Most of these oil companies in the Western region, anywhere across the country, they go for training in Aberdeen. If you go to the USA, Texas is the oil capital. And there's a growth pole around it. So if you are Chevron, you don't have any place going to set up your headquarters in Washington. You have to go to Texas. Even Nigeria, the political capital is different from the financial capital. There's Lagos, there's Ibadan, there's Abuja. Even in La Côte d'Ivoire, there's Abidjan, there's Yamoussoukro. So the question, what we have failed to do as a people is we have failed to spread development so that everybody can feel a part of it. Because if I don't have a buy-in to development, as much as violence is wrong, and we don't condone it in any way, if I don't have a buy-in to development, I have to necessarily demand that my town is made capital before I feel I'm a part of this country. Because let's face it, how many companies can realistically situate their headquarters, even in Kumasi? Even in Kumasi.
There was a slave market in Salaga. Salaga was not a
Very
capital.
historical.
Yes.
There was a slave market
Yes.
there. But Salaga was not a capital.
So you don't
I'm
need
saying-
to be a capital.
Absolutely. How many capitals can you have?
Yeah.
Even
yes.
when you take a district, how many district capitals can you have? So it is practically not possible for anyone to say that because you want development and because you believe that you can only have that development when your area is cited as capital, so that when your area is not capital, then you can resort to
Of course,
violence.
I'm
There
not
cannot be
justifying
justification for that. And I'm not saying that
it.
you are justifying
Yes,
it.
thank you. But that your point needs to be made, Malik. Is very important. Raymond, go ahead.
The point I'm actually making in this case is that because we look more to the identity part, so even if it's the same larger ethnic organization, the differences that matter in this case is that a Kumfi Fanti might be very much different from other Fantis.
From a
And let's be
Duna
clear.
Fanti.
Yeah. Again, of course, they are all Fantis. Again, even in towns, the fact that we are wired the same way doesn't mean that if you are getting the capital, I should necessarily be excited by it. Every grouping would have wished it came to them. But this belief is emboldened when you have people thinking that they can't reverse decisions with the violence, especially when it has been rewarded before. So see, the alternative has been they'll do press conference. They will threaten not to vote again. They will threaten that you will lose in this area. We will not put your MP in parliament if that particular situation continues. Indeed, that's the other alternative that they could put to win. But we have made it very juicy for political participation to have at its center some way, somehow, the coercive force of violence. So immediately, and again, if they did a press conference, I doubt we'd have been given the prominence that that it is getting with the violence in this case. If these young men did a press conference and you release a statement that we are not happy with the decision, please change it. It's because we have actually indirectly believed that people can be rewarded for choosing the violent way. And on the other side, the question of development, and it's political participation, it's also at the heart of development. It's not only physical infrastructure. To the extent that people feel alienated merely because they didn't get regional capital, it's equally problematic.
But Raymond,
and that ought to be looked at from their perspective too. So, my point is, if we manage it this way, we know that people have complaints. We know that the people of Ketekrachi, we know that people of Jasikan are equally interested in having the regional capital in the OT region.
Of the OT region. And we've seen campaigns for Ketekrachi.
I expect that the regional security setup and the district security setup in these areas will pick up signals. Signals that sense that, oh, these are people we should deal with more importantly. Get people, including chiefs and other people, who are very important in all of this, senior political operatives in the areas, to talk to the right voices. That's if they're not the ones fomenting the trouble. To talk to the right voices and get them to, if not even accept the decision, live with it. So in this case, there's nothing wrong with saying that you got the capital, but other installations of this particular region may go to this end. You got the capital, but we seek to spread development in a nice way. And you mentioned grow posts. The original SADA concept had almost 58 different grow posts in the SADA region. Ask me today how many of them have been developed. I can't think of one. In fact, I saw an elaborate write-up on the Fumbisi Valley one. That it was so wonderful. I felt, wow, we could develop the area with this plan in a very nice way. If it was, I think the one who shared with me was Dr. Sule Gariba. Yeah. And it looked so good to me.
The point is, we don't even need 58. We need about 2. No, seriously. Because look at what Accra alone, look at what the weight of Accra alone has done for the entire country. Look at what the commerce that is driven in a city like Accra alone has done to the rest of the country. If we could have one more Accra, just one more Accra, it could make a world of a difference. And again, it is just demonstrated by the seeming impossibility to do any sort of business on a national level outside of Accra. You can't get any state office. And you see, it's important because I'm from the Western region. Getting to the 2016 election, one of the main political promises of the NPP was relocation of the oil capital to the Western region.
That's true.
To Sekendi Takrady. It was supposed to be the entire Petroleum Commission. It was supposed to go, it was even supposed to be from the communication of members of the current government. It was supposed to be Petroleum Commission, GMPC, even Ministry for Energy and Petroleum, at least the petroleum side. The mindset was that, oh, if you see Aberdeen and the way Aberdeen is the oil capital of Europe, we are seeing Takrady. And it's not even as if, because you see, look, Goldfields, they've done a lot of business in Takwa. End of Boise. Yet Goldfields, the Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources has to come, is here in Accra. And so Goldfields has to come here to deal with government. And so if we were really
of course, they have offices in Accra too.
They have offices in Accra. So if we were really minded to implement this simple, well, seemingly simple development model of having growth posts across the country based on even natural resources, we could easily look, because if you go to Sehiri also and you look at the cocoa potential for Sehiri also, that's actually one of the reasons why reasons given for the creation of the Western North region, because the profiles for the areas north and south are so different. They have so many different development needs in the first place, different profiles, different work that is needed there, that they would need concentration. But the point is that without the creation of a proper growth pole, even if it was in the capital, it could reflect in other places. Because remember, the regional capital for the city we are sitting in is just some 10 minutes down the street, Accra Central. But it has stretched, its effect has stretched to Adenta, to Dodowa, now going towards Ebri. That is what a growth pole can do.
I get your point. The point here is also, it goes back to why people oppose the creation of new regions and just said merely having administrative increase in numbers does not guarantee anything. In fact, in any case, the counter argument was that the current system too does not guarantee anything, so what's the point? Then the monetary involvements came in and all of that. I think that because of partisan politics, we tend to measure in the minors and forget the main goals of the state. We tend to create the impression that merely because we have created regions, it will come along with development. Anybody who necessarily had that opinion surely will not be right.
And that is a dream that is being sold to these young men who are demanding a regional capital.
I, for a very long time, had read the GLSS and our Ghana's poverty profile. You can see that having a new region had not necessarily made any necessary impact in the poverty status of the people. If the ultimate aim of the state is development, you didn't need regions to do so. If indeed you felt facilitation of, say, because why? When we increased districts, there wasn't any correlation, at least as has been established, that it actually necessarily resulted in the required development from the people. I think what was the goal was increasing political participation. And that is development in some way. Well, because when people feel engaged and increased, and in any case, the predominant conversation about gender involvement is participation.
But Raymond, to be fair, in all government communication, we've heard the development arguments being pushed over political participation.
See, there's a basis.
We can engage in that debate, but it's developments that we've been talking about.
There's a basis for that. And the example people cite is the splitting of the upper regions into Upper East and Upper West. The profile of Upper West region really soared when it was split from the upper region, from the Upper East, and made a substantive region. It soared. You had a branch of a university which was sent there as a complete region. You had roads that had been left undone, which were now done. The Wa Township roads and all of these roads were paved. They were done nicely because it had become a regional capital.
But why should it be connected to its being a regional capital?
I am saying
that's the question in the first place that we should have been asking.
Precisely.
Because Ghana as a country is smaller than one state in the United States.
Everyone knows that.
Yes.
The point is that whether you like it or not, we have decided for ourselves that it is when we create these administrative regions that we come to the realization that we must raise the profile and the standard of these regions. And then we have done that for Upper West region. So for the proponents of the creation of these 6 new regions, this is the example they cite. And that example has a basis. And on that basis, they think that these areas that have been created will see a semblance of development that they would not have seen but for the creation.
We had an opportunity with the setting up of the capitals to make it abundantly clear that this is, because you see, a 5-member, or is it a 7-member committee has been set up to look at the rapid development in the short and medium term for all of these 6 regions. It includes Kendo Foriata, it includes Yao Safumafo, it includes Albert Kandapa, Haji Ali Mamahama, a number of key ministers. Now, there is an opportunity right now to spread development and make it inclusive for all. There's an opportunity to communicate it and make it clear. There is an opportunity to let the plan be known to the people. So you see, we haven't seen that. But now, see why then in the one district, one factory, Raymond, if I may finish, in the one district, one factory initiative, this was the whole plan. That wherever you are in the country, you shouldn't come to Accra. You don't need to come to Accra. You can get a job. I can tell you how there's a certain town. It's called Abra. It's on your way to Cape Coast from Kumasi. Just, yes, you can say Cape Coast from Kumasi. So just before you branch to Cape Coast, Yamaransa Junction, before you get to Yamaransa Junction, there's a town there, Abra. There's one company, one citrus company that processes farm produce into concentrate, into juice concentrate. I won't name the name of the company because of marketing and all that, but you can tell how that single company has helped farmers there. And that is the kind of conversations that we should be having. Why are we not spreading it out? You go to the US. There's some small town in some village somewhere. All they have is one factory. The whole town works in a factory. They all process it, and then the factory pays them.
Daniel, I get your point. I'm saying that I don't think that the manifest reason really for this was okay. So, for example, what we fail to do and what the regions really will contribute very little to is the actual aim for our decentralization, which we forget. This is devolution. At the core of our policies, our ultimate aim was to go devolution. Let the people decide their fate at various lower levels and get them to solve their problems. So, the best plan was the IPEP. So, you see how...
The one constituency, 1 million.
1 million, yes. I mean, because the way it was tagged. But the actual intent was that the various committees that were put together in regions and districts were to establish the actual needs of the people so the monies will be devoted to fixing them at the lower level. Not needs determined in Accra or needs determined in any other region. If you did so, if I in my village felt that we could easily get our problems fixed without having a passport office and without having a regional capital to make us have a passport office, why would we need it? Why would we be pushing and be fighting for it? It's because we seem to, again, be more interested in the facade of big things when actual development for these areas is at the low level.
Guys, this is not a conversation we can finish today. It's 22 minutes past 8. Okay, to be fair, Malik, I'll give you 30 seconds for a final comment. We can't finish the conversation today.
My final comments.
Okay.
I think we over-rely on government, even though governments have proven to not be the solution. In fact, our governments have been the great bunglers of our progress, but we have over-relied on them. The company you cited was not one which was cited by the government. I admit that the government has a responsibility to create the enabling environment for people to set up businesses.
Which is all it was supposed to do in one district, one factory.
In all of these areas. So that private people, motivated by profit, can establish businesses and create employment. I think that is what the president said he would do when he said his government would unleash the creative juices of the Ghanaian people. Except that has not been done yet comprehensively.
Thank you very much, Malik Abbas. Dabo Raymond Aqua is also here. It's 23 minutes past 8 here on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. We've been discussing the violence that broke out in Salaga yesterday as a result of the announcement of Damongo as the regional capital for the newly created Savannah region.
Raymond has again, one last addition. We don't want this treated as a political crime. We want it treated like any other crimes that people will be prosecuted and evidence suggests that people will not be let go with some flimsy excuse.
It won't happen.
Because if you bolden that system of that kind of hooliganism, then you become a system of vigilance.
Raymond, it won't happen. We have gone past the stage.
Okay. Really? We'll take these important messages. When we come back, we'll hear from men who have been physically and emotionally abused by... and also sexually abused as well. So physically, emotionally, and sexually abused by their wives and their loved ones. Our series, What Love Is Not, continues after this.
I wake up in the morning, it's a new day.